Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. This is Wendy. Today we're going to be doing did we do 4 or 5? 4. Today we're going to be doing 4 farmhouse trash to treasure projects. If you're stopping by for the very first time or you're coming over from Natalie's channel, welcome, and I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. If you like these projects, don't forget to give them a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think, and now without further ado, let's get started. For our first project, we're going to be using this ceramic canister that I got at the Goodwill, and it's a little worn out and chipped, but I really liked it because it has the lines on the outside and then it's got that big chunky lid at the top. So I thought this was going to be cute if we do the enamelware look to it. And it's got the rubber inside lid thingy that keeps it nice and fresh. So I knew it would also be functional, and it was only $4.99. And then for our second project, I'm going to be using this bamboo wine holder. I think it's real bamboo. It's light and it's got the ridges on the inside, and it's even cracked in some areas like regular bamboo could do. So if it's not real, somebody made it look really real. But it was only $3.99, and I think we can make this look really cute. I like that it's black also, and anytime you're distressing after putting white on it, it looks really good. So we're going to be using the Krylon paint and primer in a flat white, and I'm just going to spray these 2 items, including the lid for the canister. But I think this is a quicker and easier way to get these things covered. I do 2 coats and make sure that both of those first coats are completely dry before putting on the second coat, but it gives them a real solid and smooth finish because we're going to be putting a decal on these, so we want it to be pretty smooth. I'm going to be using the canister for our coffee, and so I should have covered that up so that I didn't get any overspray inside of it, but I'll just have to clean that up later. So now I'm going to take some painter's tape and mask off the handle because I'm going to paint the handle completely black with my Waverly chalk paint in ink. And so I'm just going to use my paintbrush and paint that entire thing black. And if it's not perfectly masked, that's okay because it's enamelware and it's supposed to look aged, and so a few crookedy lines don't hurt anything. You could also use electrical tape, and I didn't think about it until after I had already masked the first one. So that makes it easier to go around corners as well. I always say to wait to do the little chippy marks until the end because chances are you're going to either go out of the lines, or in this case, I accidentally hit my paintbrush when I was trying to get the underside of the handle. So now I'm going to use my black paint pen that I get from Walmart, and I'm going to paint those outside lines all the way around, and I just go over it about 3 times to get a good width, and so it covers that whole line. And then I'll go back once I get my lines down to make those little chippy marks, and this is a perfect opportunity to cover up any ceramic chips that are actually in the piece. So it just kind of camouflages it and makes it look like it's supposed to be there and you don't even notice it. So now I'm going to remove my painter's tape, and look how cute this handle is. I think it's adorable. So then I put my rubber seal back on, and before I did any of the painting, I washed it down really well, and it was really dirty. So you'd be surprised how much grime and icky stuff comes off of these. So then I designed my decal, and I'm using Psalm 143:8, and it says, "Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love." And I thought that was perfect for this project because it's morning and we get our coffee in the morning. So I just thought that was cutie patootie. So the fonts I'm using for this decal are Hello Sunshine and the Skinny. And so because it's a smaller decal, it's a little bit tedious when you're weeding it because my area measures only 5.5 inches wide by 6 inches long. So there's a little more work involved but this is just another way to exercise our fruit of patience. If you ever want to know what fonts I'm using, you can always look in the description box below, but I know some of you don't know how to get to that box for that information, so feel free to comment and ask me and I will let you know. I'll also have this available in my Etsy shop under White Sparrow Living, so if you don't have a cutter or don't want to write this yourself, feel free to go there and shop around. So now I'm just going to put this on my transfer tape, which is from Frisco Craft, and I'll have them linked in the description box as well. And they just provided me with a 5% coupon code, so if you want to buy some of this just to try it out, they'll give you an extra 5% off of their already low price. So I'm just going to use my squeegee to get this all nice and secure and then pull up my transfer tape. And every now and then I'll accidentally leave a little piece in my weeding job, and so you can pull that out afterwards. So now I'm going to take some jute twine, and we're working on our bamboo wine holder, and I'm just going to take it and tie a knot on the side because I'm going to wrap the entire handle just to give it some cuteness. And so I'm not even going to use any hot glue to do this. I'm just going to wrap, and I actually ran out, so I had to tie a knot and then continue on until I got to the end where I'll tie another knot and get that all nicely secured. And then once I'm done wrapping, I just took some sandpaper and did a little distressing by rubbing it along the edges and on some of the front parts and all over the side. And this is where that black shows through and looks super, super stinking cute. And so once I get done with this, I'm going to move on to making little planters for the inside. So if ever you find a wine holder that you like, or maybe you have one that you're not using, this is an alternative to using it instead of putting wine in there. But you could still put wine in there, that's fine. So now I'm going to take some burlap, and they have these little bags at Dollar Tree, but I only had one, so this is another alternative to this. But I do have a bunch of extra scrap burlap in my stash, so I'm just going to take a couple of empty Dollar Tree spools from my ribbon. You know, I have a lot of those hanging around. So I'm going to use those spools to measure to see how large I need to make my little burlap sacks. And then I'm just using some hot glue to put those together. One of these was on a folded edge, so I only had to do it on one side. But then the other one, I'm just putting two pieces together and gluing that all the way around. And then I'm going to pull those inside out. So I'm going to cut the corners to make the little corners a little bit easier to pop out. Then I'm going to stick my spools inside of my little burlap sack, and then I'm going to roll down the top, and then I'll take some jute twine and tie it around the neck and kind of gather it a little bit, and then tie a sweet little bow so that it stays closed. So now I'm going to take 4 stems of the boxwood greenery from Walmart, and these are 97 cents each, so it's a really good buy. And I love using spools because they stand up all nice and perky, and you don't have to use any of your foam. So now for the front of my planter, I'm going to be placing our last name, the coordinates for our home, and then our established date of when we got married, which is 1990. And I got this idea from a sweet viewer, Christine, who ordered a clock face with the numbers and asked if I could add this to that order. So I thought this was a really cute idea, and so I'm using it for this project because it's the 3 little signs, so I thought this was perfect. And here it is all finished, and I really love how this turned out. I think it's so crisp and clean, and first thing in the morning when you're stumbling to that coffee pot, you can read scripture and some words from David and just be encouraged to start your day. The clock behind it is also from Goodwill, and I got that totally scored for $4.99. And then of course a shameless plug for my merchandise that you can find right below my videos if you're interested in that. And here's how the planter turned out, and I love this too, and I think it's so special. And it was really cute because Michael J said that the coordinates should have been to the church where we were married, since that's where we were actually and officially established in 1990. So you could leave this blank, you could write it in and just do whatever suits your fancy, but I think it turned out super cutie patootie. So now this is a collaboration with my sweet friend Natalie over at Design to the Nines, and I would love for you guys to head on over there as soon as we're done with the next two projects so you can see her awesome trash to treasure. It really wasn't trash, but she made it into definitely a farmhouse treasure. So head on over there. But first, if you haven't met her already, I'd love for her to introduce herself. So take it away, Natalie.
I just wanted to stop in and say hello and introduce myself. I'm Natalie from Design to the Nines. After you're done watching Wendy's awesome episode, I'd invite you to come over to my channel and check out my episode where I'm going to show you how I redid this dining room table in a farmhouse style and very easily with very little sanding. If that's of interest to you, I hope to see you soon. And now back to Wendy.
So speaking of table do-overs, we are going to redo this table, and I got this from my sister-in-law. She had it for her uncle who was going to have this in his room, and I decided that was not okay because it's got very girly legs and we can't have that in a boy's room. So I got this for free basically and just switched it out with one that I had that was more appropriate. But you see these all the time. It's your just very traditional table, and so I thought we could make this into something functional and beautiful. So the first thing I did was take off the hardware, and I'm going to clean it up a bit and give it a good sanding on the top. It's not really wood, so it's that cheapy material, MDF or whatever. So it had a really shiny finish on the top, and I want that to look like wood. So I'm first going to use my orbital sander and get all of that shininess off. But I also wanted to keep that pretty trim intact. So instead of just sanding it straight on, you can actually make it straight if you sand it for too long, but I wanted the little curves. So I just sanded in between there with the edge of my sander so that it kept those curves. So now I'm going to take some chalk paint in white, and this is the Waverly brand that I get from Walmart. And actually somebody had sent me a bottle. I've gotten a few bottles from my sweet viewers, which I absolutely love and appreciate so much. But there was one person that sent this particular bottle in a Pringles can, and I don't have your name, and I wanted to say thank you. So if you would let me know in the comments below, or you can email me just so that I can give you some love and hugs for that much needed bottle of white chalk paint. Anyway, I decided to just go ahead and leave the legs completely white and not distress those because I'm planning to make the top hopefully look like wood. So it'll be a little busy, and it was just so pretty. I just decided to leave them in that white solid paint. So I'm first using my Annie Sloan paintbrush that was gifted to me by my friend Kathy, and after I get that down, just to get in the little crevices and the corners, I'm going to use a smaller paintbrush so I can get that detail and make sure that it's all covered. And then I'm going to water down my chalk paint and just brush it on pretty lightly and wipe it off because I want to start with a pretty light base, and then I'm going to start adding my Waverly wax in Antique. And so after I get the top completely covered, little by little, I'll add that Waverly wax in real small areas as well. And then if you want to make it darker, you can just keep adding. And if it gets too dark, you can put some more white on there. So you're just going to play with it until you get the look that you like. So now I'm going to use my Silhouette Cameo 3, and I'm going to be using some Frisco Craft stencil vinyl, and I'll have it in my description box below as well as the coupon code. But I'm going to cut out a quote that was said by Mother Teresa, and it says, "Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love." And so I'm going to be placing that on the top of my table. And I don't think she meant necessarily that we can't all do great things, because we do great things on a daily basis, I'm sure. But I think she was talking more about like curing cancer or receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, things like that. So when you're cutting out a stencil, instead of removing the outside layer of the vinyl, you're going to take off the inside letters so that when you place it on your surface, you can then go in and paint, and you're just painting the words onto your project. So I used my 24-inch cutting mat, and then I'm going to put my transfer tape on top of it and then pull off the backing sheet, and then I'll place that on top of my table. And I did this in 2 sections because it was longer than the 12 inches that goes through these machines. And then once I get my stencil all down, I went in with my Waverly White chalk paint, and I used a pretty flat paintbrush and just started dabbing that onto the stencil. I didn't want this to be completely solid. I wanted it to look a little bit old and worn, but I also didn't want it to look like I had just missed some spots. So if you want to see how it's going, you can always pick up a corner of your stencil and look at it and see if that's the look that you're going for, and then place it right back down and be about your business. So this Frisco stencil vinyl is super sticky, which is why you'll get 0 bleeding. But at the same time, it does leave some of the residue from the stickiness on your surface. But I figured out how to get that off, and so I'll show that to you in a second. But all I did was first brushed off all of the ickies and some of the paint, because it'll kind of flake off from where you go over the actual stencil vinyl. And so it will get into those stickies, and then you've got some mess going on. So I just took some blue painter's tape and rubbed that off, or rolled it off, I should say, by just kind of rolling my tape over those areas and brushing it off, and it came off perfectly. So Michael J. had gone to the Home Depot to get me a cup knob, and so we just replaced that old brass piece that came with the table, and that itself gives it a whole new look.
Can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. Mother Teresa.
Very nice. Good reader, huh? So what are we going to do with this?
We're going to put toilet paper roll right
Not
here.
Not toilet paper roll.
Paper towel roll.
Yeah.
And put it right here, and then put It's gonna be like a side table, but we're gonna put paper, and it'll be my little craft table.
Yay! Like it?
Mm-hmm.
High five. So Cadence comes over every morning at 7:30, and her great-grandma helps her with her distance learning, also known as Gaga, so that she gets to be with us every morning while Christine works with Carson, who just started kindergarten. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to take this Goodwill find for $3.99. It's a wood paper towel holder with a nice big chunky dowel, and it fits perfectly in between the legs of my table. So we're going to clean this up, get it all painted, and then put a wood finish on this with the paint. I would have left it like it is and just sanded it down, but it wasn't quite the right color. There's a lot of red and yellow in this one, so I wanted it to match a little bit better. But this way, once I have it in place, the paper towel roller will be towards the back and you won't see it. And then when the kids come over, they can use this as their craft table to color or do crafts or whatever they want, and it'll protect my surface. So I'm going to be using 2 of the holes to attach it to my table, and then the other 2 holes will just be left out in the open. But Michael J was having none of that, so he went outside and got me some silicone caulking by DAP. It's called Alex Fast Dry Acrylic Latex Caulk Plus Silicone, and it's paintable. It's the world's longest title. But I will have this listed in my Amazon store under tools because it's kind of a tool thing. So if you ever need this, this does work really well. So now I'm just going to make this kind of match using the same method that I did for my tabletop, and then we'll attach it to the table. So for the paper, you can get from Dollar Tree this white wrapping paper. They usually always have it, or this craft paper, which I see every now and then, but a lot of my viewers have said that they see it all the time. And so I just measured how long I needed my roll to be, and I was going to use my utility knife, and I started doing it with that, but it was just taking too long, so I went outside and used my miter saw instead, and that worked in a jiffy. Now, there's no roll inside of this craft paper, so you can't stick your dowel into it. So I had to use an old wrapping paper tube, because you guys know I keep stuff, and it's not hoarding if you use it. So I just cut that down with my utility knife and then put a piece of tape at the end and then rolled my craft paper onto it, and the dowel slides right into it.
Push down and turn. Push down and turn.
This is difficult.
No, it's not. You're doing a good job. Okay. This one. Straight. No, other way. Tightening it. Righty tighty, lefty loosey.
And here it is, all finished and ready for the kids to do their coloring. I tried to scratch off some of the letters just to see if that paint would come off, and it's pretty durable. So you could put a coat of varnish or polyurethane to keep it even more protected, but I'll probably just leave it the way it is. And here it is when it's not in use, and I probably shouldn't have filmed in front of the window on this day because it was so sunny, so the lighting is a little off. But I love how this turned out. I love the message. I love that we got to work on it together, and I know this is going to be a functional piece for a long time. So I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. For our final project, we're going to be using this big concrete urn, and we got this from my mother-in-law a number of years ago, and it used to be out in the front entryway, but we were having some big large trees trimmed and I was afraid something was going to fall onto it. So Michael J had moved it to the side of the house to protect it, and it sat there for about a year. So he took it and gave it a really good washing, and I think he may have even used a power sprayer. I'm not sure, but it's super clean. So whatever he did, it really worked. So now we're going to be using some Krylon Fusion all-in-one paint and primer, and I'm using the matte black, not the flat black, but matte, because it gives it a different finish. And so I'm just going to paint this entire urn completely black, and then I'm going to go back in to give it some highlights and patina in a rusty color. And I'm so excited how this turned out, and it's even better in real life, but there's so many little nooks and crannies, and I knew it was going to be beautiful. It just turned out better than I even expected. So I gave this a total of 2 coats plus any other areas that I might have missed, and it ended up taking a whole can of that spray paint, but it was so worth it. So now I'm going to take some Waverly Wax in Antique and a little bit of the pumpkin chalk paint and dilute that down and give it a lot of water. And then I took a teeny tiny paintbrush and started filling in the little nooks and crannies. And then I'm going to go in and wipe it off. And I'm telling you, this seriously looks exactly like rust if you look up close. It was a little tedious at first because there are so many nooks and crannies, but once I knew how it was going to turn out, I got a little more courageous and used a larger paintbrush so that I could cover more ground. But as soon as you wipe it off and it goes against the little edges of all of that, I think it just took it to a whole new level. There were some little creepy faces on the handles that I'd never noticed before, and they kind of look like Santa. I don't know what the story is behind that, but I bet somebody out there knows. But I'm definitely going to be using this for a Christmas entryway piece as well. So I'm going to be making a pumpkin topiary for inside of my urn, and I found this at a yard sale some years ago, and it came with a C, and I really loved it. And these are kind of expensive at the stores and Hobby Lobby, so I'm going to be using that. And then I found these 2 cutie patootie little pumpkins at Walmart for $4.88, and then of course you've seen the Dollar Tree pumpkin as well, and that'll be at the top. So I first took my hacksaw because the second pumpkin needs to sit obviously on top of this large one that's going to go at the bottom. So I needed to get rid of the stem so that it could sit flush on top of it. And then I'm going to take the stems off of the smaller ones so that each of those can sit on top of each other. And then I'm going to save one of those stems for the top of the Dollar Tree pumpkin, and I'll replace it with one of the better looking ones. So I just pulled them out very carefully and made sure that I didn't rip anything or that it would come apart. And then I'm going to take all of my pumpkins and using my Waverly chalk paint in white, I'm going to paint them all so that they have a nice solid foundation. And so for the second one, I'm just going to use my same mixture of paints that I used for the rusty color on my urn, and just added some more water and painted it onto my pumpkin and then wiped it off, and it gave it a really pretty brownie orange finish. And then for my larger one, I'm going to use my chalk paint in moss as well as the color Pool, and then some white, and get that into a nice soft greeny blue color. And then the third one I'm going to leave plain white, and then for the top one I'm going to add some Waverly chalk paint in ink, which is black, and get that to a nice pretty gray color. This is going in the front entryway, so as you may recall, we got our house painted recently, so it's completely white with black trim and black doors. So I want this to kind of color coordinate with everything. And then once I get done with my smaller pumpkin, I'm going to put that better stem inside by using some hot glue and placing it inside. So now I'm going to take a big dowel and I'm going to stick it through my pumpkins, and the larger one didn't have a hole, so I had to pound a screwdriver into it to make that hole so that my dowel rod would go all the way through. So Walmart has this fall garland, and I love these colors, and so I got 2 of them. They're a little pricey. They were $10 each, but look at the colors. And so for the places where I have an open spot between number 2 and number 3 of my pumpkins, I'm going to use some of that baby's breath to kind of stick in between so you don't see a gap. So now I'm going to take my heat tool, and I'm using this Dollar Tree party bowl, and I'm just going to make a small hole in the bottom and make that go through so that my dowel can go through this when I put it in my planter. So to put it in my planter, I took a piece of square styrofoam and placed that at the very bottom, and then I'm going to put my bowl right on top of that, and it's kind of wedged in there so it doesn't move too much. And then I'm going to place my dowel into the hole and then into the styrofoam, and then I'm going to stack my pumpkins. And then once I get them all in place and turned to the way that they fit the best and they're level, then I'm going to take my garland and wrap it around the base so it covers up that bowl. And you could totally do this with real live plants and flowers, but you guys know how I am with plants and flowers. I can't seem to keep them alive, so this is just going to work best for me. But if you guys have that green thumb, this would be gorgioso with real live plants inside of it. And then for the little gap between numbers 2 and 3, I just stuck that baby's breath in there. And here it is, all finished, and I am absolutely swooning over this. It's kind of funny seeing a fall piece in front of the swimming pool, but it was so beautiful outside and really nice, and this is a huge piece, and because it's concrete, it's super, super heavy. So I absolutely love how this turned out, and I hope you guys love it too. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it gives you some inspiration to take some things that are kind of old and outdated and give them new life. Comment and let me know what you think about these projects. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you like them. Also, be sure to go check out Natalie's video at Design to the Nines and tell her I sent you. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram under White Sparrow Living. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!